Hello and welcome to another Dwarven Tavern video. I am your host,
I thought you were going to do that.
And with the wish. And with me in the tavern is Lyric. And
That's me.
Ian.
And Ian. And I could remember his name too. I just
chose not to.
Clyde.
I'm going to ask you a question. What do the Little Bighorn, the Alamo, Pompeii, and the Titanic bring to mind?
A whole lot of suck.
A lot of dramatic experiences.
Yes. Why did you say it like that? Why, dramatic experience. Yeah.
Yeah, not saying like that.
You totally did. I can play it back. We've got this on film. Yes. Yes.
Touche.
So, the thing that that all those have in common is that it was a no-win situation for a lot of people. In the Alamo, of course, you know what happened. Well, you guys know what happened in those places.
Because
Pompeii,
you remember.
You know, all it took was one enormous pyroclastic flow, and you know,
A lot of
a
dead
very
people.
upset volcano.
You've got a lot of memorable statues for eternity.
It's awful.
It was awful. It was awful.
So
So,
I don't live anywhere near a volcano. Because the volcano can just go, you know what? I feel like killing everything within a 20-mile radius.
blah.
And then it do.
Yeah,
And you can't stop it.
you can't stop it. There's nothing you can do.
I wonder if you could stop it with a nuke, or that would make it so much worse.
I'm sure it would. Yeah, let's nuke a volcano.
Wow.
Yeah, but
Moving on.
Dig a hole and put... Anyways.
Dig a hole, nuke it.
That's the only way to be sure.
Completely.
Yeah.
Lava!
So, now if it was a reverse nuke, so it froze everything.
All right, come on. Let's focus. Stay on target.
Anyway,
Stay on target.
how many of your characters have been in a situation like that and died?
How many?
None of mine, actually.
That's right. And I would bet.
I think I've lost one character like that. But
Who did you lose like that?
that's the thing, is I don't really... I remember the situation very vaguely.
I blocked it out of my mind.
Well,
I was very
not
young.
any of your campaigns, but
No.
Eric and I almost lost. I believe it was Leo.
Yeah, this is what I'm thinking about.
One of my paladins almost died at level 1 because the DM had no idea how to DM and was like, you want to know what? I'm going to send 5 challenge rating for wargs.
We've mentioned this before, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And being a paladin, I stood and fought. And didn't run like a little bitch.
And my
And
fighter...
promptly almost died.
my fighter was at -2 hit points when that battle was...
And being the mighty paladin that I was, I broke into someone's home.
We need help carrying my
Yeah.
unconscious...
But greatswords
douchebag.
are surprisingly good versus doors. And, you know, I busted down the door and threw her in there, don't die. And, you know, basically held them back with my pointy stick.
And then dawn rose and the wargs ran away because that was the only way our characters would live.
Yeah, it's like, apparently she didn't realize that, hey, no one can kill these.
Well, that was also a new DM, so the experience was
But the thing
experimental, if you will.
It was extremely no-win. Because there was no way in hell, like, we couldn't have fought one of them.
No.
It's like, it was doing, like, 3 dice of damage per attack and had 2 attacks and was twice our speed and blah, 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 5 hit dice. And it was...
I had maybe 12 hit points.
Yeah, 2 level 1s can't... You can't deal with 5 of those. Or however many there were. And it's like, you know, we basically had to flee. And as a paladin, that's... It's like, you can't... Like, he was a paladin of Heronius. A lawful good paladin of Heronius. He is a warrior god paladin. It's like, he's not like a paladin of freedom, like, you know, do whatever you want, man. No one can tell you what to do. We're cool. I'm gonna go stay over here, you know, a paladin of peace, man. But he was a warrior paladin. He's like, the front line was his job. And he was the only one who had a sword ready to go against these things that were here to eat babies.
Oh,
He
right.
was
He
gonna-
wasn't alone. I was there too.
Well,
I just
after you were unconscious.
I was there with a battle axe and
she
promptly
basically
got my ass handed.
she
to
pulled
me.
up battle like, let's do this. Got one shot it.
It was awful.
Because
I stand here with my friend. Humph. I stand here alone.
yeah, and it's like he was the because thing is he had a great sword and he was already like 6 foot something, so he could actually hold them back, and they couldn't attack him because they couldn't reach him, and that was the only reason we're not dead. That was it.
And we stopped playing because our DM needed to recuperate, and like she was honestly shocked at her own
Incompetence.
misgivings of the
Yeah, she messed up bad and had to like, okay, hold on.
I'm so sorry. Let me backtrack real quick.
Yeah. Because she was like, you know,
She
I
had
don't
never
know.
DM'd before.
She didn't know that challenge
That's a benefit
rating.
of the doubt.
She just saw the 5 wolf things
Yeah.
and didn't check challenge rating, hit points, damage,
the
stats.
story went along with it really well. Like
Yeah.
the village was being
He's
terrorized.
like, so
by-
that's why the village is scared shitless.
Okay, well let's deal with that. Why?
Oh, I thought it was just some regular dogs. It turns out these are barbarian paladin eating monstrosities. Here to eat your
I
children.
was not a barbarian. I was a fighter.
You acted totally like a barbarian.
But I was educated in the way of the
You were
the
definitely
sword.
barbaric.
I was barbaric, but a fighter nonetheless.
So,
I am trained in the way of the sword. Axe.
I stand here alone. And so that it brings up the question. You guys, from what you were just talking about, your knee-jerk reaction to being in a no-win situation was talking about the dungeon master's handling of the situation.
I thought you were saying our automatic reaction was to go away.
No,
to flee.
It was
we
to
had
flee.
to flee.
You had
It's
to
like,
flee. I mean,
If I wasn't like a 6'2", one-handed greatsword wielding paladin of Heronius, I wouldn't have, I would have died.
you would've
Like if
died
I would have been a
also.
hobbit, they could have reached me.
And my character proved that point, having almost died.
Yeah.
And so I've lost myself. I've lost a few characters, even though they didn't die in an Alamo type setting in a
I
little
think-
bighorn. They didn't die in a no-win situation.
is-
They just died because they screwed up.
The thing
and
is,
died.
she may have put us accidentally into a pretty awful no-win scenario, but we didn't die because we could escape.
I think
Yeah.
another
like-
situation that I can draw from is the ziggurat that we were fighting on.
Yeah.
That felt very hopeless
Yeah.
when we were doing that.
The
From my
dragon-
perspective,
The
because
dragon didn't help.
the dragon didn't help. But
Nor did the mind flare.
it didn't hurt either.
You. Well, it's like, it's like when you're standing at the bottom of a ziggurat, and on top is a mind flare, a dragon, 2 stone giants, an entire gnoll army, or flying army, not just regular gnolls. And the paladin's like, I'm gonna go up there. And everyone's like,
That.
alright, so they're going up there, apparently.
Bye.
Bye.
See you when you come back.
God.
But that situation, from my character's point of view, because I feel like all the other characters were more prepared, and that just might be on me as well. All of the other characters in that situation were more prepared for an all-out battle, while my character was not as well equipped because a lot of Akathan's, not a lot, but most, if not all, of Akathan's attacks were one-on-one weaponless attacks.
Well, you were also attacked by 2 incredibly high-end, like, Harlequin monks.
Katana-wielding freaking bitches that they were. And Akathan almost died in that battle. He maybe escaped when he went, because he
I
killed
believe he
them.
survived with his signature gut punch.
He killed them, luckily, with his signature gut punch.
Gut punch.
Whoosh, and both of the ladies, they were and down. And he then cartwheeled up the ziggurat to free.
Oh man, I'm almost dead. Backflips.
he that was the only thing that he could do because he could not fight anybody else lest he die. And he backflipped. I remember this very specifically, backflipped, because that was the fastest way for him to get up somewhere, aside from running.
That's when you know you're high level. When you're like, I can't run there. I guess I'm just going to handspring all the way over. It's like, what I'm going to do is I'm going to push the earth down really, really hard so I can get up the cliff.
Yeah. So
Chuck Norris does.
he backflipped all the way up to the top of the ziggurat where Kelsian, the paladin previously mentioned, was fighting the Mind Flayer. And while he was distracted,
being a paladin,
Akathan released the Cloud Giant. Yes, the Cloud Giant? It was Cloud Giant.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It was a
because
giant.
it was stone giants below.
Yeah. And that ended the conflict almost immediately, because Cloud Giant was like, alright,
because
bitches.
Cloud Giant.
How dare you chain me?
It's like, okay, the Mind Flayer's dead. Who's the only person here who can stop a Cloud Giant? So, you kill him, you free the Cloud Giant, fight's over.
Right. And I feel like a lot of the roles that we had saved us from the
Cloud Giant, who
the
also
no
has
win
high
situation. Because when the dragon spawned, because it spawned.
It was summoned, so yeah, actually.
It was spawned. When that happened, in the moment before anybody moved into the next role, that was where it felt the most hopeless, because we were up against those armies and the two stone giants and the dragon.
Two stone giants, a hill giant, an army of flying.
Other adventurers.
Other adventurer level
Because that's
characters.
who the twins were that I was fighting.
And then, the fucking Mind Flayer and then the dragon.
Yeah.
So it's not exactly what one would consider.
It felt like a tornado of awful bullshit that we were up against.
Basically, it's like someone looked at the monster manual and looked at all of the little tabs and go, I'm just gonna write these down. All of them at once.
Yeah, just like that.
Well, mind flayers. When a mind flayer's in the mix, shit just goes wrong.
Right.
Yeah.
So that was the closest situation I can think about where we were in a no-win situation. Even though it did turn tides almost immediately, that brief instance is ingrained into my skull.
It's like, you've got a no-win situation, and then someone nat 20s, and then it's no longer a no-win situation.
Yeah.
Because it's like,
that chance is so...
Because, okay, it's like,
random, though.
Y'all know how unbelievably dangerous a high-end mind flayer is. Like, a mind flayer lord. It's like, he's summoning armies from another dimension. And, that's bad if he's by himself. And then he's got an entire army on a hill that he made, because he summoned it from a different dimension too, because he's a mind flayer. And then the paladin goes, you want to know what? One shot it! And, when the paladin just one-shots, like, the most important guy on the field, you all of a sudden have a chance. Mm-hmm. And that's what he do.
But, back to the topic at hand, that was the closest situation that I felt we had no chance.
Yeah.
And
well, at the time we didn't.
Randomly, we were saved from that, but that is not a guarantee.
No, absolutely not.
Well, another thing is the other no-win situation was when Cillian and Snamery and...
I love that name so much. I don't even know why.
And your character, I can't remember the name.
I have no idea who was there. They didn't play a very big role.
Were on their way to Restonford.
Who was your character? Was it a random?
It was probably the Rosca.
No.
I think it was. I think it was.
Tangith?
Tangith isn't my character.
No, but was Tangith there too?
Probably.
Tangith or Omnom. I love that. I love the names of our characters. I'm geeking out about them.
Yeah, LaRosca was probably very much not helping. Because that's kind of...
Yeah,
I wanna say
because I do
Tangith was
remember
there.
LaRosca was there.
Well, Tangith and Laroska are
and you stopped at that keep, that little keep, to warn them to get out, and suddenly we're surrounded by a vanguard of Grolls.
All of the army. Like, oh,
hey, hey.
And that was very much a no-win situation because your numbers were incredibly limited, and his were not. Grolt's army, they could have catapulted orcs into the wall until the wall...
Ulfs.
That would have taken one. They could have catapulted orcs into the wall until the wall collapsed. I mean, that's how many,
Then they don't have any care of life anyway, so...
You're right. So if you had stayed, you would have died.
Yeah.
But, there was a way out. You guys, I mean, it was a slim way. And a lot of people died running. There was like maybe 200 or 300 civilians in the castle, and I think maybe 50 of them got to.
Honestly, I think that we need to make a distinction between no-win situations and artificial no-wins.
Yeah, because right now we're talking about the potentially no-win situations.
Well, an artificial no-win is when the DM creates the scenario and the players did not.
Yeah,
and it's like a player no-win is if he finds the castle, he goes to the keep, he finds the king in the middle of the keep, and you've got one guy, and he goes, "I'm gonna attack the king." It's like, okay, and he walks up, he attacks the king, and he gets fucking destroyed. It's like the king's archmage is right there. He's like, "What are you doing?" What? It's like he's dead. That's a no-win. If you decide to attack the king in the middle of a keep, you're dead. There's no way. There's no way his guards are going to let you take a single step on those stairs.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's not an artificial no-win. The DM didn't make that a no-win. The player did.
Right.
Like, they were totes okay with you being there. It's like, all right, come on in the building, man.
I've had a few characters in a situation like that.
How's your wife?
Oh, man.
I've had a few of those situations.
Yeah.
Not as the DM, but as the player. I was playing with a group of old dudes, and I was the most experienced gamer, and I was a samurai half-orc. And
that's just your standard character archetype.
a half-orc.
Half-orc.
And the other guys had played maybe once or twice, and my best friend at the time was the DM, and one of the dudes, we will call him Jack. And Jack had never played before. He had no idea what D&D was about. He was just, in it for the shits and the giggles. And it was a prefabricated game where he found it online, and we just went along with it with our own characters.
I would like to never experience giggle shits.
Or shit giggles.
Or shit giggles. I don't think that would be pleasant.
So
it would have to be the giggle. The giggle part is pleasant.
What? I don't know if that's voluntary.
Let's keep on target.
Stay on target.
And Jack had never played before, and we were playing a prefabricated game, and we wanted to go one way, but it was through a bridge, and on this bridge there was a Warforged soldier.
Through? Don't you mean over?
Well, through, yes.
Just in the middle of the bridge.
Oh, straight down. It was a cavern. Anyway, we were like, okay, well, we can't go this way. We gotta find a different way. The Warforged obviously doesn't want us to go this way, so we can't go this way.
Warforged's like, come at me.
And Jack, being an inexperienced anything, apparently, decides to attack it with his barbarian. He had a barbarian full orc. And
full orc? Well, that actually makes sense. That's totally in character. It's like, something in my way? It's like that. Okay,
and,
yeah, that's logical for that.
He
That's the
immediately
reasonable response.
died. The Warforged was and gauntlet through the skull. And that was it. And we're like, well...
How big is this guy?
Apparently about 8 feet.
Well, the Warforged was floating, so... Because it was...
Okay, that's even more reason to not go after it. It's like fucking floating Omni Warforged. It's like, I'm not gonna mess with it.
It was... We were going to the castle. I don't even remember the original point of the game, but it ended up with us trying to find a necromancer to bring his goddamn character back. Because Jack was a fucking idiot.
It's like a god comes down, I am here to save your people. Looks like, aye.
God's like, no, Squish.
But how about no?
So in that situation, in that particular character to DM situation, that was a very character made no win situation.
Yeah, I feel like the DM made no situations, you should have an escape. Because if the DM makes a no win situation and doesn't give you an out, he just kind of screwed you over and kills all your characters.
Which is exactly my point. There in real life.
Did you state a point earlier and I miss it? What was
the point that I was hoping to arrive at, to see if you guys would arrive at this point, which you just did.
Awesome. Destination achieved.
Wow!
That is where D&D and other role-playing games depart from reality. Because the Alamo actually happened. Mm-hmm. And so did Pompeii and, the Titanic and Little Bighorn.
There is no DM in real life.
Well, some would argue that there is, but that's a whole different topic. But the point is, why wouldn't there be situations like that occur? Now, currently, hold that thought.
Hang on, I'll write
it down. Write it down. Currently, they're being attacked. They're saint characters. And peripheral characters as well have all kind of converged on this little town called Restenfjord.
Is it Fjord or is it
Restenfjord? It's Restinfjord.
I'll have it written down at the bottom for you guys.
Yeah. It is currently being assaulted from the west and from the north. I'm sorry, from the east. And from the north.
There's a giant snow cloud over one half of it right now.
Yeah. And
that's where we left off.
Yeah. And there is no passage to the south and nothing but treacherous mountainous terrain to the west.
And a spider.
And a giant spider.
Which I am... recently I had that song stuck in my head and that's all I could think about was that stupid spider. Nope. Don't even go there.
Rammstein. I've ruined Rammstein for many people.
I love that song too.
Yep.
How dare you?
Yeah. Well,
how so very dare you?
You ain't heard nothing yet.
Oh.
So anyway, it is very possible that this situation is an Alamo, and I think you guys know that, right?
Oh yeah.
Now, granted, your characters might be the only survivors. But this is a small city. This is a town where, there are thousands of people, tens of thousands of people.
The characters being the only survivors is kind of the cliche that you run into a lot of books, is that the main characters are the only ones to live. That's why I think I like Game of Thrones so much, is because there is no winning in that book. It's a legitimate, real life situation.
They do not have particularly high grade plot.
They don't. What is it called? Author armor or something like that. Plot armor. Yeah, where they have the protection of the author liking them, to save them. And I think that's a problem that
that's how you
Dungeons and Dragons
to
has.
Mary Sue characters that are perfect in every way that I hate.
So these guys, what they don't know is that I don't like any of their characters.
Hey now, we've got some really cool characters, okay? Really if I do say so myself.
Yeah, all their characters are very cool, and I do like them a lot. But to me, being a fan of the Norse kind of philosophy, there is nothing in the world cooler than a really cool death. I had a character. I still have a character. Playing in a campaign. His name was King Arthur, but he was kind of a flesh golem type. He
Kick-ass character.
Promethean from the werewolf Promethean.
Oh yeah, those are the books that I'm gonna do a review on. So they're in my tavern.
World of Darkness.
He was that World of Darkness. That's right. He was a World of Darkness character that was translated to 3.5 to join this campaign.
And they translate pretty horrendously.
The
stats go all over the place.
Well, they're two different systems.
And but the cool thing was we were being pursued by this creature that was unkillable, and so King Arthur and myself, I have always wanted to do this, and I finally got the opportunity. I said, "You guys go on. I'll hold them off."
I got goosebumps just then.
I know, right? And so I stood there. I had a nuclear flamethrower in one hand and a big like grab hammer, mace type thing in the other, and I was prepared for this character to die because he wasn't my main character. He was a secondary character.
Yeah, but he's still King Arthur.
Yeah. And so, I fought the thing and actually won, and I was like, "Oh man!"
Oh, sorry. Let me cut you off there.
He says
King
fought.
Arthur was never a secondary character.
Yeah,
all right?
well, yeah, that's true.
Well, the thing is, he says fought. He actually beat the shit out of it. like it didn't stand a chance. Like he was expecting, is like, okay, all right. It's like because we're staying up. We actually is still on topic. We is on topic, yo. It was supposed to be, he was going to be what sacrificed so we could, keep going. He was killing his character to end the no-win, and he was apparently a lot stronger than it was.
That
which was
is actually...
fascinating.
Yeah, it was.
That's actually what I prepared for.
It appeared to be a no-win, and it was not.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah.
Well, that's another... That brings us back to the chance, the dice being in control of that situation where you are not, say, in real life... chance is not necessarily that forgiving. While in game, it's so forgiving.
Well, it's true. What else is something that's very not forgiving is a natural 20 plus a 6 dice of damage flamethrower.
Right. But that
Open the mouth too.
that self-sacrifice.
Godzilla.
That self-sacrifice that King Arthur is experiencing is something that my character is experiencing in the Saints campaign. I'm not going to say which one, but they are preparing themselves mentally to give all that they can for the sake of Restenford surviving. That, Restenford, yes, you said that, do we realize that is a no-win situation? Yes,
Yeah,
I
it's like,
do.
It's like, okay, again, the horizon line is orcs, and we are completely surrounded, and we have a mountain to our back. So
This is a to the last breath battle.
yeah, it's like the people that we're trying to protect don't actually have anywhere to go.
Right.
Because the west
The
west is a spider. The north is orcs. It's like we've got an ocean to one side, mountains and a spider to the other side, and it's like the reason Restenfjord is there is because it's a great location to defend. The problem is when you get hit by all of the orcs.
All of it.
All of them. It's like, a defensible location is only as good as the terrain. And the terrain is great, but we have to have people to actually utilize it. And we don't. And so it's probably going to be, like, the Saints, the characters we play, they've got saintlyhood, so they're stamina-less. And, an average orc can't even touch them. So if it's not like, Grolt himself or the 200 stone
Grolt himself
giants.
is not going to be anything good. Not against Ulf Tarkin.
Yeah.
Let's be real here.
Yeah, it's like, they can't really affect the characters that much. But the characters aren't what's the important thing in the scenario.
Yeah, it's the people we're protecting.
Yeah, the people. It's like, we can't, Ulf can hold the bridge. But what about literally everything else that's about to be overrun? It's like we don't have enough characters to take everything down all at once.
There are a few situations...
We don't have any flamethrowers.
There are a few items in play, magical or not, that can change the tides of this no-win to an all-win.
But even then, it's like, our sorceress, Naga, she could do the ice storm where she can cover like a mile radius in just pure unadulterated pain, but that'll only kill a mile of orcs. We're not dealing with 1 mile of orcs. We're dealing with the horizon is orcs. Everything that way. Like Grolt has been coming this way for years and collecting all of the orcish tribes, and it's just created a swath of destruction. It's like, the only way we can stop this is by defeating the orcs in a not combat way. And it's like, how does one defeat orcs mentally? It's like, we don't have a mind flare nearby.
So we don't have a solution for this just yet, because this hasn't actually played out. But that is one of those situations where we don't know what's going to happen, but we do accept it as something that we may not potentially win. There was, the thing that I just did this for earlier, was that I thought of a situation where the no-win happens in-game, regardless of what the character does, and that's when it happens before the game even starts. When there is something that's going on with the DM, with NPCs, that has nothing to do with your character, but it affects them indirectly. And one particular instance is Theldur Gamar. And that was a no-win situation, and the characters were just in the same place that situation was happening.
Theldur Gamar was going to fall, whether the characters had any hand in it or not. It's just how they handled the fall of Theldur Gamar. It's like they didn't... The characters couldn't have stopped it from happening because they couldn't happen to stop the pit fiend who was going to knock down the bell. It's like, that was going to happen.
This sounds so random if you don't know the story behind it.
Well, in short, Theldur Gamar was a dwarven capital. Not like a dwarven city or stronghold, the capital. It was the most heavily defended dwarven place in universe.
Ever.
Like, that was it. Theldur Gamar was it. It was the kingdom. And it was attacked by demons, and dwarves were like, is that it?
Come on.
The dwarves are absolutely wrecking these demons all the way back to the demon gate itself. And what was his name? Douchebag McKnock the bell down?
His name was Sargud.
Sargud.
And
Sargud he was a...
There was a prophecy, I'm going to cut in right here. There is a prophecy, that Theldur Gamar would not fall until the bell rung. Yeah. And there was this gigantic bell that...
Yeah, being dwarves, they just encase that shit in stone.
They're like, no.
How about no?
Let's encase that real quick.
Yeah.
And there was no way for it to ring.
Yeah.
In parentheses.
So, and then Sargud, being not an idiot, being a pit fiend, he was like, I know about this prophecy. So he did his little teleport shenanigans up to the top of the mountain and blew the bell out of the stone casing, and it fell down the mountain and rang as it went. And the dwarves were like, we lost? Oh. And they gave up because the bell rang. They were stalwart believers in the prophecies, and the demons slaughtered them all. And, the fall of Theldur Gamar, it was this massive incursion of demons.
I still get goosebumps about that story. Oh, he's getting misty!
Yeah, Theldur Gamar,
okay, Dad.
it was in-game, in-universe, Theldur Gamar was a big deal. It was the Dwarven capital. It's kind of like,
That actually makes me misty, too.
Yeah, it's like, it was the most important thing for the dwarves in-universe. And it being completely wiped out by demons, it was over. But the thing was, the characters in that had nothing to do with that. They were just there.
they were
they were there as this happened.
They barely escaped alive.
Yeah, they were passing through the battlefield. And this was the generation before us.
Is that demon gate still open, by the way?
No,
one closed it.
No, it was closed.
It was closed? Okay, I was about to say, like, did anybody deal with that?
So, that situation that happened regardless of what the players did.
Yeah.
And that...
Yeah, and if they would have stayed there, they would have been killed.
I feel like the point of this video is that no-win situations...
They're incredibly important plot points.
But they're
that should
not...
be handled with care.
And I don't feel like... If your character is in a no-win situation, I don't feel like it's a necessary thing, and that you could... I feel like it's more of a vindictive DM if it happens without a good build-up.
Honestly, I feel like a no-win situation is more important for the DM than it is the players. Because if the DM handles it poorly, he can ruin the entire campaign instantly. If the DM handles it really well, then it can be, like Theldur Gamar, one of the most important events in that universe's history.
Which there is stuff that happens afterwards, but there is something that may be in the works that you guys will be able to learn all about that type of stuff. So look forward to any news about that, because I'm super excited.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Very, very excited. So the other point that you guys also brought up is the fact that it's always heard about after the fact. The characters never actually don't live through it.
Yeah.
Because there are such things as resurrection possibilities,
Necromancers,
and kindly priests who,
AKA clerics that are a little bit more shady than normal.
a little more gold involved.
If your characters, I had a friend who played a character who died under really awful circumstances. And, it was like he had survived a whole bunch of really awful stuff, and then he died in a landslide.
That's exactly what I was thinking of.
Yeah, and so his character remained dead for 180-something years and was resurrected by someone who needed to bring him back to help them in his community that were, it was like a different world. It was almost like a Samurai Jack kind of thing where, he
well,
was...
it's like, that's one of the great things about, getting a following as a high-level character, because eventually those NPCs might become high-level characters, and it might just happen to say, hey, wait a minute, that one saint that died that one time would be really useful right about now.
Right. So, death is never necessarily permanent.
Yeah. As long as your name survives.
Right.
And nothing eats your soul, obviously.
Yeah. So, I don't know if there is a specific message that
I think there is. I think no-win situations aren't... I don't want to say that it's bad DMing, but I would
say that they're extremely delicate.
They're
as violent as a no-win is.
Extremely consequential of what is going on around it. If you Restenford, understandably, it's had a build-up for generations. We are not the first
literally
people.
2 years. We played the game for 2 years.
We're not the first.
We're
not the first people to play with Restenford being the topic. We're also there's older generations. We're third generation characters in this situation. We're second generation players in this situation. This is Restenford coming to a point, and we're just part of the story. So the no-win situation makes complete sense and was a built-up thing for a very long time.
Yeah.
So, that makes sense. And the fact that our characters not any of our characters may come out alive, that would still make perfect sense.
Yeah, it's the place where characters go to die.
And I would 100% not blame the DM for any of those deaths, because that's honestly how battle would work.
Well, honestly, it's not like, he didn't just make a scenario and throw us into it and we just get wrecked because he just built a kill you scenario and just hey, this is what happens when your characters die. No.
Yeah, that's a bad DM.
No, he didn't do that. No, this had build up. We knew about the wall of orcs for
I
a
am
long
prepared
time.
for death. Is what's going on here.
I think that's one of the reasons I say it's so delicate. If you don't tell your characters, oh, hey, by the way, don't stab the king in the face. They should know that, but if you have a particularly stupid character, you might just indulge in metagaming and say, don't do that.
I think another message that we can convey is that if you're stuck in a no-win situation, then make sure that getting out of it doesn't feel too forced, because that can also be...
Yeah, because if the DM saves you, then it kind of ruins any sense of accomplishment.
Or sense of dread that you may have felt. And it waters down the situation.
If your character can't die, then it doesn't mean anything. Yeah, you need it to hold water.
Yeah, right. So
I think a point that may be missing is that using it as a story building technique for characters who are perhaps overplaying their characters as, say they're overconfident, or they're not humble enough, and putting somebody in a situation where they literally cannot win is a way to build the character. The build character, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
I agree with
I was just
a really good point. Guy who's not there.
From table 5.
But Josh, you're not even there. Ask him about the
He's in a different campaign right now.
I was just going to put my shirt on and go sit down over there. I didn't hear anybody bringing that up.
Well, that's a
So,
good point.
that's
I'm
why-
glad you
Yeah.
spoke up.
Kind of thought about that one.
So yeah, and now and Josh enters the room.
Bad idea.
We got another
Just-
chair
just-
in someplace.
I got another chair.
But yeah, I think that's a really good point. Putting someone in a no-win situation intentionally
Yeah.
is a good way to instill character building, and if they it kind of as a test that perhaps it for all intents and purposes it feels no-win.
Take Hercules' how many tests did he have to do?
He did 10, but
10 tests, but most of them
originally it was 10, but he ended up doing like 12 or 13.
well, they were
So they
put
were
out
tracked.
as
They didn't count.
they were put out as a no-win situation, pretty much.
Yeah, you wasn't supposed to be able to do
That's right. That's right. It was like 10 Kobayashi Marus in a row.
it. Yeah.
And yeah, so he pulled them off anyway.
Because it's Hercules.
Because he's Hercules. And that's the same way it was with the other thing. It was a no-win that was survived with King Arthur. It was
yeah.
kind of a Herculean task.
Yeah, it's
Um,
like he wasn't supposed to be able to kill it, and he
but
killed it.
But I
And then-
intentionally did it because I wanted to sacrifice him. He wanted to sacrifice himself because he was like 8,000 years old. or
Also,
something
death is
ridiculous.
kind of his release at this point because he's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, I've been around-
All he needs to do is meet Pyre and he'll be fine.
I've been around for 8,000 years, nothing but reruns.
That was really funny to me.
I got that. And it is good, like you said. It's a good character building scenario.
But as you said, it's very delicate because you have to
Yeah.
be able to do it. The GM has, or DM, whatever, has to be able to pull it off in a way that feels natural.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
exactly right, and that doesn't necessarily mean saving the characters either. It
No.
means-
no, if the character,
If you have a plan, stick to it. If that's what you're
That's
doing,
why-
then that's
Yeah.
what you're doing.
That's why
Right.
Valhalla and the Valkyries were a thing, is because valiancy? Valor is the word I'm looking for. In death was just as important as the good deeds you would do in life.
Yeah. If not
So
more.
no-win situations weren't necessarily a bad thing. That's just a part of life that you have to accept. And the Valkyries were there to show you that there is good that comes out of it, even if you feel you may have ended with the short end of the stick. She wants to be in this video
Yeah, she
so
does.
bad.
But you're not even there, baby. When you find your now, and the other thing too is that your campaign, whatever your campaign is, may come to, whether you plan it or not as a dungeon master, you may find your characters have put themselves into a situation where they cannot escape.
like stabbing the king in the face,
Like stabbing the king in the face. You know,
Or
there's
charging the Warforged.
there's
charging
so
the
many-
war for it.
There's so many,
Yeah.
like the one guy who brought his Warforged Charger at my character.
Yeah.
He was just entering the game.
Yeah, he was just entering the game,
And-
and he was like, well, I'm just gonna walk up to him, and it's like, okay,
And-
that's
And my character
He's-
was in a situation of high freaking alert.
yeah, because two of the other characters had just had their chest cavity ripped open.
Because we didn't know what was going on, and then this Warforged Charger comes walking up, and I told him to halt. I
And
said,
he-
"You stop and identify yourself," and he didn't, and I freaking killed him. I shot
It's
him
like
in the chest.
it's like even the thing is the
I've never killed a player character before as a player
what
character.
the hell? Well,
I don't
wow,
think
I
I've ever
forgot
done
the
that
character
either.
class. The woodland guy,
Scabrous.
druid.
Oh. Scabrous is the first person I think of.
The druid even put tangles on him. It put tangles on him to stop him from moving, so they could get a dialogue. And he ripped out of the tangles and didn't say anything.
Yeah, he didn't speak.
And
Who was this?
Eldergron was a
One
Woodjin,
is
so
one.
he had more than enough abilities to just
That
absolutely
explains everything.
wreck this first level character. He was like, Earth Punch, arrow to the face. Like, what are you doing? And he died and left the game and never came back.
I gave him every chance to speak, and he
Yeah,
just
at least 4 times.
He
at
just
minimum.
chose not to say anything, and I'm saying, yeah, communicate. And he's just like, I guess he was trying to be in character. I don't know.
What was said afterward? Was it like
Ouch.
Not much. He was like, okay, I guess that's how that goes, and left and never came back.
Lord?
So,
What were you expecting?
so what, as a dungeon master, what can you do? I mean, you had to let that play out.
Yeah, I couldn't. It's like, well, player interactions you can't really interfere with as a DM because it's like, well, I'm gonna roll intimidate. It's like, okay, well, I'm just stand back and see what happens. Let's hope it goes well. Hope no one dies. That's all you got.
And unfortunately, he did.
So unfortunately, it's like, don't walk toward the guy with the bow.
If he asks you a question, and
Answer
it's
it.
reasonable question.
It's like, how many arrows does he have knocked? 4? Don't mess with him.
4? Oh, hi. My name is this. This is my social security.
Yeah. It's like he's probably got your number.
Yeah, so it's just common sense.
So basically, the meaning of this video is no win situations are not necessary, and don't create them yourself.
Yeah, and although they can be useful.
They can be.
Well, I think that if it's a DM created point, make sure your characters have an obvious way to not die.
Well, not like
Because if you
stupid obvious.
I don't think as a DM you should specifically create a scenario to kill all your characters. I don't think that's fair.
Well, yeah, don't like.
It's like playing poker in the house. He just hands himself the best cards, and it's like, okay, well, I win. Look at that, amazing, woohoo!
Yeah, because it's
well,
not.
I'm God. I can kill you all any time. It's like, yeah, we know that.
We know that.
It's okay.
You're not proving anything. You
Yeah.
know,
But
like
at the
dude
same
in
time-
the Corvette tearing out at the red light. It's like, woo.
Ooh, okay, yeah, sure, whatever.
But
Your car
I
works.
think another thing
Surprise.
is that you don't want to make it too extremely obvious because you want your characters to put themselves in that situation, and they don't want to automatically go, oh, you're being a bully, why are you doing this to me and my character? We didn't do anything to you.
But
Because
it's
then
like
it's the DM's fault that things are going wrong.
Right.
What I believe
And
is
that's metagame.
if the DM makes you have a no-win situation, the DM should have it very clear that you don't have to die there.
I don't think very clear.
Well,
is-
very clear is subjected to the characters, obviously.
Like
No,
an
it's
easy
not
button.
obvious at all.
An easy button.
An easy button. Well, that was easy. But it's like, if it's a character-created no-win situation, I believe the DM should punish them.
Well,
It should not punish them like, bro, what? No, like he should let it play out. If you walk into the castle and stab the king in the face, you're gonna die.
That's just how it works.
That's just how it works. But if the DM has you walk into the castle and you're supposed to stab the king,
There should be a reason
you should have an out. The DM should never throw you directly into
Or
a
you
no-win.
sneak into a castle and kill the first person you see, and the dungeon master said, "Oh well, that's the king. Now you're gonna die."
Yeah.
It's
like that would
So-
be a douche move.
So what it is that no-win situations can be necessary to the game. They can be used to build character.
Yeah.
And they can be used to also expand the knowledge of the player. They don't have to be used, and they should be used tastefully. But if you don't use it
sparingly,
if you don't use it carefully, then you become the bully of the game as the DM.
Or you have a scroll that you don't know if it's what is in it, and you let one of the city officials read it because he likes magic, and it's a cursed scroll, and he accidentally lapses into a coma, and you're an assassin. Then you can
Hey guys,
Hey.
can you come here?
Hey guys, look at me! That's an entirely different story, which was a lot of fun.
That was a good idea, though.
It was a good idea.
Why would I read a scroll?
You're not even here.
Go back to table 5.
That was a good idea. I'm not gonna read a magic scroll not knowing what will happen to it.
Actually, it really saved you because the guy it was a cursed scroll that the guy turned into an owlbear.
Yeah.
And
Good times.
he had to knock him unconscious.
I tie him up.
And he tied him up, which was good because you would have been the owlbear if you had read the scroll.
And an owlbear with assassin traits is not a good time.
Not
The owlbear's sneaking around.
There, we've created a player no-win situation.
I would totally play an owlbear assassin. Just throwing that out there.
Okay.
I would play that so
that sounds
fast.
Awful.
Could you imagine just, like an owlbear crawling on the ceiling, you look like this, just like, caw.
They got a beak.
They don't go caw.
What do they? How
How do you know? have you ever heard an
Actually, that
owlbear?
depends. If it's a screeching owlbear, would be the whole most hilarious thing. So you have this really, really high-pitched scream as they run through the woods.
or it'd be like hurt. So, with that,
Welcome to the table.
with the doggy here, loving on me. I guess the whole message of this is that don't be afraid to put a no-win situation.
But make sure it's well thought out.
Yeah, and it goes back to the last video we did. If you use common sense and you have a good reason for it.
With good reason.
Yeah, if you can justify it well. Even if you kill the characters
She's never done that.
That's a weird
Dipper.
Come
here.
If you kill the characters off and then have the next characters that they roll up find these characters or seek vengeance or something. I mean, there's a lot of reasons to have.
If all your characters are gonna die, you have to make it important.
Yeah, you have to make
like
it.
Don't just kill them off because you can. That's just like the douchiest thing I can think of.
True, that's true because we already know you're the powerful dungeon master, so you don't have to prove.
It's like we already know you can drop a meteor on everybody at all times.
Yep, at any point.
So make the no-win situation, ironically, beneficial to your character.
Right. Yeah. So, with that being said, on Dipper's behalf, and on behalf of the whole cast and crew of the Dwarven Tavern, I am Dr. Jeff Norns.
I am Lyric.
I am Ian.
This is Dipper.
And
we wish for you to offer nothing but adventure.
wait a minute, who's not here?
Occasionally, Josh.
Occasionally, Josh. We wish for you to want for nothing but adventure. And at first I feared it,
Then I charged.
Thanks for watching, and we'll see you. Josh won't because he's
not here.
He's not here.
He doesn't exist.
We will see you next time.